In a world overrun with an infinite amount of multiverses, originating from a plethora of sources, four longtime friends band together to try to make sense of it all and present it to an audience in an easy-to-digest podcast. This is Geeking Off the Page.
Hello, fellow nerdlingers. I'm Gavin, and must drive faster. Hello, my name is Trevor, and I read lots of books.
My name is Troy, and the flowers are still standing.
And I'm Mike Kitchen, and it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Welcome to Geeking Off the Page. So this week we have another episode full of episodes we've watched, movies that we like, and other random banter. Over to you, Troy.
All right. Thank you for that, Michael. Again, it's a collection of Hive Mind that we have here. We are short one of our main players, but...
no, we're not. You just heard him. It sounded just like him.
It sounded exactly like him. I apologize. Trevor, I am sorry. The other's right. He doesn't have his camera on right now, so I keep forgetting that he's actually still here. So,
for the record, Gavin's going to tell us all the books that you've read and all the things that you know.
Yeah, exactly.
All in the record now.
But we'll all be chiming in. We'll all be chiming in. Ooh, less than 5 minutes in the first F-bomb drop by Gavin yet again. All right.
I thought it was Trevor.
No, it sounded more like a Gavin than a Trevor.
Well, fuck.
There we go.
There you go. So that would be the Trevor. Okay. So we're going to start off this particular episode by talking about just some general stuff that we've been watching over the past week in between episodes. And I think we're going to start off with Mr. Gavin going on about, I believe we're going to go with the Wheel of Time to begin with, I believe. Yes?
Yeah.
As being the only one that has actually seen more than the first episode sort of thing.
Yeah, I unfortunately, unlike Trevor, I don't have an encyclopedia uploaded to my brain, which remembers every single character in every single show. But so far, the fifth episode of Wheel of Time.
Oh, you're amazing.
Yeah, we've we're caught up to date. So like they released them on Friday, and we watched it. We watched the fifth episode yesterday. So basically, we're following Matt, Rand, Perrin. Basically, like all of the folks we were introduced in, before who got separated. We're seeing the results of the death of one of the Aes Sedai. Their water, which is kind of like it's closer than like a husband and wife, is my understanding. And you truly see the grief on Lan Dragorn's basically losing his shit. No, I fucked that up. Troy,
keep it going.
No, I've got the characters mixed up here. What's his name? I have the IMDb in front of me, and I can't remember the damn name.
That's okay. We're doing it live. This is the late night podcast. Actually, you have no excuse, Gavin. It's like it's 8 o'clock in your time?
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock in your time.
Come on. I mean, me and Troy have an excuse.
Yeah, it's like 11 o'clock here on the December 4th that we're recording this episode, just for prosperity.
So in the previous episode, Stepan loses his Aes Sedai, his bonded partner. And Lan Mandragoran is basically very close, like brothers with Stepan. And you see basically Stepan going through the stages of grief, and the episode sort of builds up to sort of like Stepan taking his own life, and Lan is just absolutely distraught at the end of it. It was very focused on him through a lot of the episode. You do see Moraine trying to guide Ninave, I think her name is. Basically, the the village the overseer who's starting to tap into her own power, and cautioning her against all of the politics in the White Tower. So for me, the intrigue is starting to really build. You also see Perrin basically starting to come into his own. I'm just really enjoying the story here, and unfortunately, since it's been a very long time since I've read Wheel of Time. I just remember a lot of walking in the books. Honestly, it was just walking and walking and walking. What's his name from Clerks, when he was talking about how Lord of the Rings was just all walking.
Yeah,
I just remember that from Wheel of Time for the most part. But I think what the TV series has done an excellent job of kind of distilling it down to sort of the important bits, the important like skipping the filler effectively. With well, as Mike would obviously know, there are key episodes of Naruto which you need to watch, and then there's the full-on filler episode that basically you can safely skip.
I'm going to sound like Trevor right now. I have a list.
We know. No, I have a list. But I'm honestly enjoying it. The characters, they're starting to flesh out a bit. Rand was feeling a bit stiff in the first couple of episodes, but I'm starting to feel like he's coming into his own. I think they're all starting to get a better feel for their characters they're playing. I'm hoping they continue with this. I know my synopsis here has been very shaky here, but I feel like they've got something. They've touched something here, and it's for me at least, it's working.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is it that's captivating you with this? Because I don't have Amazon, so everything I got is just from like little short internet clips and different reviews. I heard a bunch of reviews that were very negative, so that kind of made me back off on the idea of watching the series a little bit. So, like, if you were to entice me into watching it, like, what is the stuff that's captivating? Like, what would get me to
some
sit down
of
and watch?
the world building is what's kind of grabbing me a lot in this. There's this hint of other things. The what do they call them? This religious order, like wearing all white, like going around basically like burning Aes Sedai like witches.
Okay.
You definitely get a feel that these are
The Aes Sedai, they're
like,
the female ones. Are they the female witches that have all the power?
They're the ones that are touching the true the one power. And this religious order is just going around and trying to kill every Aes Sedai they can find. I'm kind of getting kind of like a Christianity versus everything else kind of feel for it. What even makes it worse is the fact that these guys are all wearing like pure ivory white outfits, and when they get spattered with blood or they get dirty, this illusion of their being the true pure, following the true pure power, or not power, the sun basically. Is you get this feeling of how corrupt they really are at heart. Now, I mean, again, I don't remember a whole lot from the book, so I don't know where this will lead to exactly. But we see Perrin. He had an encounter with wolves at one point that seemed to tap into something, and this episode sort of brought out whatever hidden power that Perrin has. His command over wolves, or they protect him, or whatever. They at the very least won't hurt him or his companions, and that was pretty satisfying to watch that sequence happen. Just something about it. It just keeps grabbing me. I want to keep seeing more. Like the Aes Sedai, like there's this internal power struggle. The greens, the reds, the blues, all sort of pitting it against each other, and Moraine here is basically she's kind of like the Aragorn, the slash Gandalf slash whatever wizard stand-in you want to call it. She's
like the
kind
old
of
power.
like, yeah, exactly. Like I don't know if you remember the Sword of Shannara. They had their own version of Gandalf in there, which was pretty much a full-on ripoff. But basically, like every series seems to have sort of a Gandalf, and she's kind of like the Gandalf of this.
Okay.
And I just can't quite put my finger on it. I just keep wanting to see more.
Well, that's a good sign. And now, what kind of series would you compare that to? Is it on like early Game of Thrones kind of level, or like where would you put it in a spectrum if you were to compare it to another series?
Oh, that's hard. It's a bit Game of Thrones, but without all of the without the fact that basically the moment you become attached to a character in Game of Thrones, their head goes rolling the very next episode. It's like, oh, this guy, I like him. He seems like a pretty solid character. I hope he sticks around for the next. Oh, he's dead.
Right.
No, but I think I think if they give it enough leg, I mean, there's so much to draw from in the Wheel of Time saga that they don't have. Well, exactly. They don't have to worry about Robert Jordan, not writing the last book.
Yeah.
He's already done it. Like there's so much to draw from. I hope they don't cancel it.
All right, you convinced me. I'm going to try and track it down and watch a couple episodes.
Yeah, and they have invested quite a bit of money in the series as well. So I mean, that's a good. At the very least, you're going to get your full first season. It just depends on how well the rest of it's received. But yes, I've only seen the first one, and like you said, it's now into its 5th week. I definitely need. I would like to get back to it. It's just unfortunately a timing thing for me. Like,
I feel you there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So speaking of finding the time,
feel me there.
I watched. I got a couple more episodes of Cowboy Bebop under my belt, and again, I will reiterate that I am aware of the original Cowboy Bebop series. I've seen a couple of the animes, which actually aren't that as many as I thought there was, but I understand the feel, the look with the characters and all that sort of thing. And this series is in my opinion, again, my opinion alone, that this is a beautiful rendition of a live action version of an anime. It's probably the best that I've ever seen that has been enjoyable to watch. There was a movie a few years ago called Speed Racer. Where there was an attempt to do this sort of thing. And again, it's a different type of anime that they tried to make into live action. So I think that's another reason why it didn't do as well in my book and all that. I have a friend who is a huge fan of the movie and watches it several times a year. So
Speed Racer?
It appeals to, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it. I actually liked it. I saw what they were trying to do.
Is Gavin your friend?
No, I to be fair.
Oh, you're not my friend, Gavin? Oh, that makes me sad.
I'm just saying that I haven't seen it like 6 times a year.
Gotcha.
I enjoyed it for what it was. They tried to encompass kind of the anime feel. They kind of it's just kind of like skirting so close you could taste it, but it just kept falling a little bit short here and there. The visuals I loved. Just absolutely loved the visuals. Story, okay. It was just a vehicle to move on to the next race. That's all it was. But
so was the actual show itself, isn't it?
Well, yes, it was. But I mean, whereas Speed Racer was trying to capture that feel, Cowboy Bebop embraced it.
Embraces it. And again, from my limited knowledge of the original series, they do a fantastic job. I mean, the look, the very Scott Pilgrim-esque sort of like camera angles that they do that mimic what I've seen or what I've also heard described. Because again, it's not like we shut ourselves off from the world. I listen to a lot of podcasts because my work allows me to listen to stuff while I'm working. So I listen to a lot of geek stuff and all that. And I hear a lot of references to, hey, it's just like this particular sequence. It's just like that particular sequence, the camera angles, the way that everything's framed and all that. And it does look very cartoonish, but in, again, an anime realistic way. And it is a beautiful thing to witness. Now, again, I don't know how much they are borrowing from the original story. I did hear like the opening sequence from the first episode is right out of the very first episode of Cowboy Bebop.
100%
And that's like fantastic to see and to know about that. But this is a fun series. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I mean, but again, I don't know how true it is to the original, but what I'm watching, I'm really enjoying. And if you're in that situation, I would definitely be suggesting Cowboy Bebop, this live action version, because it is a fun show. I think it helps the fact that I don't know much about it, because I'm sure there are the critics out there are like, well, this character is like this, and like they really don't do this sort of thing. The characters don't interact like this sort of thing. That doesn't matter. I'm enjoying it, so I'm gonna watch it more. I mean, if it turns to the point where like, I don't enjoy this sort of thing, oh well. But right now, what I've seen, I think I've, like I said, four or five episodes under my belt right now, and I think there's only 10 to begin with. But
Something
yeah,
like that.
they're hour long, well, roughly hour long, and it's just really, which is kind of interesting too, because I believe the anime was only a half hour per episode as well. So,
Standard
yeah,
episodic anime.
Yeah, exactly.
Style.
Yeah. You know what that's all about, right, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As far as Cowboy Bebop goes, again, I bailed on it because there's some things that kind of cringe me out. I love the art design. I liked a lot of the acting in it. I liked the vibe of it, but there was something that was just kind of grinding me the wrong way. And I started digging through. I was like, oh man, like that's a lot. Again, when you have a limited amount of time to watch things, so you have to pick and choose. And this was one where I wasn't sure about where they were going with it. So I kind of made the personal decision. I want to watch the original anime first and go back to the original and see like what created this whole thing, because I've never watched the series. I've seen bits of it. I know of it, but I haven't seen the actual thing. So I'd rather go back to the roots, see the anime, and then come back to this and see what I think afterwards. So
I'm thinking the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it the opposite way. I think we could get through this series first and then see what it either should have been or how it was handled differently. I don't want to watch something that's like fantastic and then like, oh, that's not how they did it. Because it would be really fresh in my mind too. If I had watched the anime right away and then right into the live action, I'm pretty sure I'd be seeing all the glaring like, oh, that's how they did that? Oh, okay.
Right.
Like, I'd rather be like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's a lot different than what they did in the TV series. I think it would be a better way to observe it, sort of thing. But plus it'll also make the anime seem a little more easier to take because I know basically some sort of whatnot.
What I'm getting from the general reviews from people is they've essentially condensed the story from the overall series. So like I think there was like 26 episodes for the first season,
something like that.
We have 10, but these are hour-long episodes. So they've basically had to kind of take a few plot lines and kind of condense them a little bit. Now, admittedly, I'm only on the first episode, or I've finished the first episode, haven't moved on to the second one. Amanda tried it. She's kind of like a hard no on it. Just the violence was.
Oh, it's definitely not for. It's definitely not for.
It's a little over the top for her, but basically, I decided I was going to keep watching it. We just haven't had the chance to continue watching. But the general consensus that I've seen from people who've watched both the original series, which I have watched the original series, and have watched the full season from Netflix, is if you can kind of divorce yourself from the original series and just take it for what it is, you'll enjoy Cowboy Bebop. If you can kind of separate the two, then the Netflix is very good, but if you can't sort of separate that, you're kind of like, oh, but this they cut that plot point short and they didn't follow up this, or
Yeah.
this one's too long. They went too long with this. I think I'm knowing what I know about Cowboy Bebop and the fact that I haven't watched it for at least 10, 15 years now at this point. I am going to enjoy it. I like the first episode. I like what they did. Just the atmosphere, the design, the feel of the show just feels like the anime. I
agree with that. That looks beautiful.
It really does. It like they like when Spike got into his ship and took off, I was like, oh shit, they actually put that ship in there. They didn't try to make it look fancy or change the look. It's the real thing.
Yeah.
So they're taking very great pains to try and make the show look like the anime, which I as a fan of the original, I really appreciate it. And John Cho looks exactly like Spike.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that is one of the big
casting.
selling factors. Yeah,
I've seen him do like interview blurbs because I guess Spike's supposed to be like 20 years old and he was afraid that he's pushing 50. It's like, oh man, I don't know if I'm right for this role. It's like, no, dude, you're perfect.
Yeah, you're perfect for this role. Yeah,
it's incredible. So,
and I don't think him doing it in his 20s, like his Harold and Kumar days, I don't think he would have been able to pull off the character then. I think
would have expected him pulling out White Castle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on from one anime to another, I believe Michael, you have something to say about your favorite little anime that's.
Yeah, because this portion of the show is what we've watched all week, and I mean, let's face it, I've watched Naruto. This is what I've been doing for the last year. So around this time last year is when my son started showing me clips of the best fight scenes and Dry as Death, and he got me hooked. I took a look at the anime that was there, the fight sequences, the characters, and ever since then, over the last year, as a family, we've watched like 700 episodes of this thing. It's completely ridiculous.
That's a lot.
I think there's like roughly 1,000 episodes altogether, but we just watched the main episodes that are canon based on the manga, and all the ones that were just filler ones we skipped. But at the end of this week, we got through the 4th Great Ninja War and the big epic fight scene at the end of it. And spoilers, when the fight is done and Naruto faces Sasuke, there's a battle in this show that beats anything that you've seen in Star Wars or any other great movies, where the two main characters have to finally clash.
Really?
So they've beaten the big bad, and then Sasuke decides, you know what? I'm going to keep everybody in the infinite Tsukuyomi. They're going to be cocooned up by the giant tree. I'm going to be the new Hokage. I'm going to rule the galaxy. Like, goes full on Sith. And Naruto has to knock some sense into him. So you have these two friends from the entire series. In Shippuden, Naruto's whole goal was to bring Sasuke back to the village. Now they're together working as a team. They beat the big bad. Then Sasuke goes full on evil. And Naruto has to kick the crap out of him. And spoilers, the last 2 episodes of the fight, they're using their full-on god powers. So Sage of 6 Paths, right, Nine-Tailed Beasts, all like full-on galactic battle. By the time it's done, it's just 2 kids sitting by the cliff of the first Kage in Madara. And they're so burnt out and so chakra depleted. They're just like throwing like weak, rocky punches at each other.
Nice.
And it's turning into a sword fight.
It's beautiful. It's like such a powerful moment because you've just seen the most craziest things you can imagine. And then it's just down to 2 friends just trying to knock some sense into each other. And then the final blow, they gather all their power, they connect, and both of them have their arms explode. Spoilers. So the last scene is these 2 friends. Like, if you thought Luke having his hand cut off, to see these 2 friends lying under these statues with their arms completely blown apart, and then they're just lying there bleeding out, not sure if they're going to survive till the next day, having a heart-to-heart discussion. it's one of the most powerful things I've seen in all media. And so, yeah, after a year of watching all the series, the original Naruto Shippuden, and even the future stuff, the Boruto, but to experience that moment as a family and everybody is just sitting there shocked and tears running down people's eyes, it's a beautiful moment in entertainment. So if anybody hasn't done it yet, do yourself a favor and watch like 1,000 episodes of Naruto.
Yeah, I'll get right
to
on
that
that
moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
that was mine.
Wow.
I started watching The Simpsons when it was on Disney Plus, starting with season 1. It's taken me almost a year and a half now to get to how long has been Disney Plus? It's over a year, right? Now?
Oh yeah. That's about a year because it started with WandaVision, right?
I'm on season 25. I don't know if I have the stamina for 1,000 episodes of Naruto.
Yeah. Well, again, like he said, the abbreviated version is like only 700 episodes or something like that. Once you get
we get together as a family, we watch about 3 every night. So it's like 3 20-minute episodes. Yeah,
that's not so bad.
Hour
that's
of
nice,
good entertainment,
wholesome family time. Everyone's sitting around the TV, sort of thing.
Yeah, and then you end up with the whole family doing like weird shinobi hand signs and running with their arms back. And the one great thing about this series too is just the morality of it. So when you're watching shows with kids, you want to make sure that there's something they can draw from. And so much of the story is about just trying your best and taking care of your friends. And like the morality is so powerful. Like that's one of the things I liked about the Jedi Knights is they had that sort of morality to them. Especially
and lightsabers. They had lightsabers as well.
Right. So you do that. So it's the same kind of thing. So you have these shinobis with morals and cool powers. And if that's what the kids are watching and that's what they're gravitating towards and using that as their story in their own mind.
Yeah.
If I have children who want to be shinobi of the hidden leaf and follow Naruto's ninja way, then next generation.
Nice.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I'm happy for him.
Done good, Mike. Done good. Yeah. No, it's great. No, that's fantastic to hear. So there's another suggestion. If you haven't gotten around to Naruto, go for it. You've only got 1,000 episodes to get through.
And a few movies.
Exactly. A few movies. Yeah. But we got one other thing that I believe one of our trio here, one of our quad here, I guess, because there's 4 of us here. Also watched something that again completely slipped my mind, even though we talked about it previously and we all were looking forward to it. I believe Gavin saw some of the 3rd season of Lost in Space. So what do we have to say about that, Gavin?
Well, I don't know how much you remember from the end of the 2nd season.
You also Dr. Evil right now.
The kids are sent off to Alpha Centauri, and the adults are basically sticking around to try and draw the evil robots. When they get to where they thought they were supposed to be, turns out they were led astray by a signal, and this signal basically leads them to what is effectively a shattered planet. Some sort of cataclysm based type of event essentially smashed, not quite moonfall, but basically took out like a chunk of the planet, ripping away the atmosphere, and the Jupiter 2 manages to land in basically the only habitable valley that could support life, and they're there for a year. It was quite a shock to basically see that they're not in Alpha Centauri.
How many episodes did you watch? Just one?
We're at 4th or 5th episode.
Okay.
Now, just a matter of time seeing them. I mean, they're like almost hour-long episodes for the most part. The robot is just as enigmatically awesome as it was for the first 2 seasons. Just the its deep intonation, danger, Will Robinson.
That was one of my favorite things that they kept from the original series, and
For sure,
they
yeah.
executed it perfectly.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the first couple of seasons, you're going to love this. This is just more of Will. I think they also used that year-long break to kind of justify the fact that Will, as the actor who plays
The
Will,
actor has
is
grown
now,
up a bit, has
he's
shot up all of a
grown.
sudden. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kid suddenly
Um,
shot up. Yeah.
So, and he's kind of like he's almost the de facto leader of this this new tribe of kids. Uh, it's I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of sad that it's the official final season, but I mean it's an expensive series for Netflix. I mean, super expensive. Fun bit of trivia that I found: the first season, a lot of it was filmed in BC.
Yes.
All of the forest season.
Yep. Really, the forest sequences were shot in Vancouver.
Believe it or not, but you can tell when it was filmed because a lot of the forest fires that were happening in BC, you could see all of the smoke in hazing up the air. So some of the scenes you could actually see like the smoke kind of hanging out.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first two seasons.
Yeah.
And the family enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There's a couple moments where I thought it was getting a little Netflixy with the stuff that I'm not a fan of, but still I thought it all held together. And I like the whole family is actually looking forward to this. So I hope Netflix lands the ending of it.
Yeah. But also, again, because of the having to break with COVID and whatnot, not being able to release it, and there was at least 2 years between the end of the third season and what we have now, right?
Has it been that long?
End of the second, yeah.
Yeah. It's been like 2 years between them. Well,
I will say, it's answering some questions that I had. Like,
that's good. That's good to know. Okay, good. That's great to hear. And the fact that they knew this was going to be a third season, if my understanding is correct, they knew this was going to be a third season. So hopefully we will wrap it up, sort of thing, in a nice cohesive, unlike what Netflix likes to do. And
just
again,
cancel it.
And again, usually you get 2 seasons, maybe 3, but you cancel it after the third one's aired and you don't have a conclusion. So thankfully, again, this was a surprise when all of a sudden, wait, there's a trailer for season 3. So that was also kind of nice to do. And again,
Lost in Space season 3, surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Which is basically what it was. We got a trailer like 3 weeks, like Netflix likes to do that sort of thing, like 3 weeks before the thing comes out, like all of a sudden, here's your trailer. I'm like, wait, what? So it's nice to see that it looks like it'll probably get a half decent wrap up and all that. But like you said, Gavin, it's probably costing them an arm and a leg to do this series because it was pretty pricey several years ago. So yeah. And that's a nice, I do like the twist of like, okay, a year later. Yeah, because that kid really shot up.
Tall and lanky.
Yeah. All right. So now that we're done with that sort of thing, we're going to go on to one of us also got around to seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife and has a little something to say about that. And why don't you, Mr. Brown, take it away?
So earlier this week, my wife and I went to see Ghostbusters Afterlife. We're both big Ghostbusters fans, and I tried to stay away from as many spoilers as possible. I mean, I had a general idea of what the story was going to be like and some of the players, but I tried to go in with as eyes wide open as possible in terms of I didn't want to put my expectations too high. When I saw the Ghostbusters 2016, I was disappointed. I really was, because I've said this before. It sat on the fence of trying to be both a reboot and a sequel. They tried to pull from the original Ghostbusters lore as well as try to reinvent the wheel, and I think it was just a terrible story. In all honesty, because they couldn't find a voice of either rebooting the franchise from the beginning or carrying on the legacy from the 84 Ghostbusters. And yeah, I was happy with the cast. I was happy with the effects. I was unhappy with the story. Now we come to 2021, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is basically a complete sequel. We have the original players, the original lore, and this movie, I'm just going to say it from the get-go, was awesome. It was everything I wanted in a sequel to Ghostbusters. I'm not going to go over the plot. I'm not going to go over, because I know that Troy and Gavin have talked about it, and by this point, just about everyone who's probably listening to this podcast has seen it or will see it. I don't want to spoil things. I want you to have that same sense of wonder if you're seeing it for the first time. But the things that I loved were, I think the casting was spot on. Phoebe, the girl who played Phoebe, McKenna Grace, incredible casting, the costume, and her mannerisms. Oh my God. It was how I envisioned Egon as a child. That sort of intellect over emotion, almost like a Vulcan sort of thing, like just doesn't really get the social interactions. And I love the way that they were she was trying to compensate through just terrible dad jokes. I laughed at every one of them. I will not hide that fact. They were great. And then they kept doing the little callbacks to the original movie, like with, watching on the internet, watching the original commercial, which was fantastic. And the ghost leading Phoebe to the underground storage and, fixing the proton pack and helping Trevor get the Ecto-1 up and working, like doing the final twisting the wire and laying it back in. Little things like that were like, yes. And then I love the fact that there were callbacks in as much as quick mentions like, Evo Shandor and the selenium girders, and they never built them that way. And now we got to see where they built them and for what purpose. And Gozer the Gozerian and the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper. And this was such a fun movie to watch. Especially with my wife, as was said, she is a huge Ghostbusters fan. We have both watched Ghostbusters many, many times. She even had a Ghostbusters like mini movie poster in a frame in her office for a long time. She recently had to take it because they're moving offices, but still, that it was important enough she hung it in her office. Of the thousands upon thousands of movies out there, the movie that she had a movie poster of to hang in her office, in her professional setting, was Ghostbusters. Can't love that woman anymore. I don't know if it's possible, but I'll try. But this whole movie was it was great to watch. When they did bring back the original cast, they did it in a very restrained manner. They didn't let them take over. They didn't just like, move aside, kids, we'll take care of this. And it was the kids that kind of, made it possible to win. The post-credit scenes were done really well. And it is a bit of a spoiler, but the way they treated Egon, it was touching. And at the end, the For Harold, I got choked up a bit. I remember when he passed, I was like, oh no, this is an important loss. Stripes, Ghostbusters, and their way of kind of saying goodbye to him for this franchise. It was very touching. And I don't know if they're going to do a sequel. They left plenty of fertile ground for it to happen. I like the fact that we found out what happened to the original Ghostbusters after everything. We find out what happened to Peter and Ray and Winston. Oh my God. Way to go, dude. Yeah, it was a great film. This will probably be, once it comes out on DVD. I was going to say video VHS, but that's not going to happen. Once it comes out on like Blu-ray and stuff, this will be a movie I will watch many times over. I will movie marathon it with Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, and then right into Ghostbusters Afterlife. Yeah, this was a great movie. I know there's been a lot of hue and cry about, they're filling the box office with nothing but sequels and spiritual successors and all this stuff. And that's the only stuff that's making money. And at this point, it's made on a $75 million budget. It's made 116. It's probably going to, especially with theaters slowly reopening and limited capacities. This movie still hasn't, I don't even think it hit stride. Now, unfortunately, there are other movies marching in quickly enough that it's going to get pushed out. But this movie deserves to be a success. For me as a geek, this movie is a huge success. Hats off to Ivan Reitman and the whole team. Jason Reitman, sorry. Ivan and Jason Reitman, you guys did a great job. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I would heartily recommend it to anybody. There were a couple little niggly bits that might have pulled me out a bit, but honestly, the movie as a whole was everything I wanted. It really was. It was everything I wanted in a sequel to Ghostbusters, especially in the modern age. And that's all I got to say about that. That was all I had to say about that.
That was very, it's true to form. It was pretty much everything that you said. I believe.
I mean, chef's kiss for pretty much everything you said.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And if you haven't, do yourself a favor, try and get to see it however you can get to see it, because it is.
Get to try to see it in theaters before it leaves.
Yeah.
It's a movie that the large screen
is definitely
really, it helps enhance. I mean, it'll be fine on the small screen.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it on the large screen will make the experience that much better.
For sure.
It was the sequel that I never realized I needed.
Yeah.
I had all sorts of expectations for this.
Mm-hmm.
None of them came true. And what I got was exactly what I needed.
I mean, there was even the tiny little things like Cannibal Girls. I saw that.
Yes, I know.
I had a big grin on my face.
Yeah.
I was like, the Cannibal Girls is showing.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
The little things like that.
And again, I know how you said you wanted to see the trilogy. You can sit there and watch the trilogy. Technically, you see the first and this one, and
you don't have to see Ghostbusters 2,
but again,
I think there are little things that are called back into 2 that
true
would help enhance seeing. It would help explain some things in Afterlife better.
True. Yeah.
So I look at it as the Ghostbusters is a trilogy now,
and
that's, if anyone says a Ghostbusters, I'll be the trilogy. And then, what about the one in 26? I'm like, what? I don't understand. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The Ghost Hunters movie?
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically, in my head, I'm now referring to the Ghostbusters of 2016 is the Ghost Hunters movie, because it wasn't really Ghostbusters.
I do have one Trevor a question for you, Trevor.
Yes.
I have one Trevor for you question. So remember when we were talking about the the Ghostbusters movies, and I said something about when they're in the elevator and you hear them powering up the proton pack for the first time, you hear that, and then you got goosebumps because the theater just, like, the sound system just really made it feel real. What did you think of that moment in Afterlife?
I squeezed my water bottle so hard that water shot out and got all over my arm.
It was fantastic.
So
it was. Now having that sensation.
They slowed down that startup sequence, so it has a couple more stages. But I was still.
Yeah.
I had a grin from ear to ear. That little kid sitting in the theater, hearing that proton pack, and as I said, I'm sitting there, and my hand squeezed the water bottle so hard that water shot up and onto my arm, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
And when she fired off the proton pack and it made the exact right sound as it was being fired, the grin just got wider, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the first time that they, Ecto 1 and the siren started up, that grin came back. I was just like, we're back. This is everything. It was everything I needed, but didn't know I wanted until I saw it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Great.
perfectly.
You
Who
finally
was the snow
got in
monkey?
there. Oh, thank God. Man, the shine off that chrome dome after a while was starting to hurt my eyes, maybe burn a cornea or two.
All
Okay,
right,
we're
ladies and
done,
gentlemen.
Mike. We're done. We're
Yeah.
done.
We're good.
Yeah. All right. So after that little bit of pretty much spiel, we're going to go on to the next thing, and we're going to talk about the Disney Plus offering of Hawkeye episode 3, which dropped this previous Wednesday for us and all that. And who wants to start with this one? Because I'm pretty sure we all have a lot to say, but
You want me to play my video clip?
you know what? If you want to play your video clip on this one,
It's
What
Hawkeye.
the hell are you doing?
if you want to do your,
Sit your
and then
ass
we'll
down.
play off of that. You know what? We'll play off of that. So everyone listen to
All right,
Trevor's previously recorded.
Yes. Well,
Why is the
you
guy
know,
in the tux doing video clips? Come on.
I'm just gonna say I wasn't sure if I was going to be back in time, so Troy had suggested because I like reviewing these things, so I had pre-recorded these on Wednesday, but I just happened to be able to get home a little. I have some hearing issues right now because the band was really loud. They were awesome. I mean, they were segueing music to music to music. It was awesome. It was like they were DJing live. But yeah, so
Wait a second. I thought you were here the whole time.
what?
Someone was talking for you the whole time.
What?
I guess you'll just have to watch it
There's
later.
a bunch of books.
All right, ready for this? And now we come up to Hawkeye episode 3. Wow. Could that be a way to start it? We finally get to see Hawkeye being Hawkeye without the rest of the Avengers. The way that he commands his battlefield and is aware of his battlefield, even with the loss of the hearing aid, he still had an instinctual knowledge of where everyone in the room was and at what point. And he knew when he was in the air and turning and twisting, how many arrows to pull, where to shoot them, and his accuracy was spot on. This is Hawkeye being Hawkeye. This was incredible. But let's back up a bit. We get to see kind of like a quick origin of Echo or Maya. And what they did in that short 3 to 4 minute introduction of Maya, her childhood, her struggles, was a far better introduction to a character, a far better story than Black Widow. It was incredible how much they packed in that short little thing. She's deaf, she's missing part of a leg, but it doesn't limit her. It doesn't slow her down. You see the fact that she is constantly observing and adapting. And when it jumped to the modern day and she saw Ronin taking out the garage, or like Fat Man garage, and Ronin was cutting people down left and right. And a little quick callback to when your uncle will pick you up after karate class. And that was Vincent D'Onofrio's. That was his voice. That's her uncle's the Kingpin. Come on. Even if it's an adopted uncle or spiritual uncle, but still, it's the Kingpin. Yes. Thank God. For anyone who knows the comic book character Echo, Kingpin plays such a huge part in it. And I love the fact that A, Kingpin is in this, and B, they got who they got to be Kingpin, because he did an incredible job in Daredevil. If they had cast anyone else, there would have been panic in the streets. Kingpin. God, yes. Anyways, seeing the warehouse fight with Hawkeye, that was, I think, what was kind of missing from all the Avenger films, is letting Hawkeye do his thing. We got a little bit of that in the Avengers movie when he was standing on top of the tower and calling out, the various things and making the shots. But after that, Hawkeye was kind of relegated to kind of like the background. And this episode it reminded me of a saying of Superman is still Superman when he's at home and in his jammies. at the end of the day, he's still Superman. The costume does not make the man. Hawkeye is, I'm not going to say he's Superman, but it's the same sort of thing. You tie him up, you beat him up, or whatever. He gets a bow in his hands. He's Hawkeye. Like, and even without the suit, he is a masterful fighter. You take the suit off of Tony Stark and he's not the same. It's not the same level of threat. Clint Barton without a bow and arrow is still a dangerous man. Clint Barton with a bow and arrow is an exceedingly dangerous man. And Clint Barton with a sword in his hands, we already know, is a dangerous man. So it was nice to see Clint Barton doing his thing, but he's the stay. He wants to be that dad that gets to stay with his family, hang out with his family at Christmas. But he gets shit done, and it was great seeing Jeremy Renner given the freedom to just basically go all Hawkeye out on the tracksuit mafia there. It was fun. And the fact that they are subsidiaries of Fisk. There's so many little Easter eggs in this one. The Pym arrow was, oh my God, that was so much fun. And watching all the different trick arrows and Kate firing them off, not knowing what they're going to do. Well, suction cup arrow, what's that for? There was just so many great little callbacks to the Marvel universe and all the little different things that I had a lot of fun watching this episode. There was also the touching moment where Clint's hearing aid is damaged, basically broken. He can't use it. He gets a call from his son, and Kate has to quickly scribble stuff down to try to give him the gist of what his son's saying because he can't hear. Well, you get to see the extent of Clint's hearing loss. And they did a really good job of the way they kind of muffled the sound so that you can hear a sound, but you can't tell what exactly it is. And that was really good. And then the fight with Echo, when she said it's limiting you, the hearing aid is limiting him. He's too reliant on technology. I think we're going to see more of that as we see more of Echo in the next couple of episodes. We still have 3 more episodes. Can the show get any better? God, I hope so, because we're hitting that bar really high. There's not much more room to get up to the top, but I hope they try. I really do. I hope they don't backslide and get, it's conventional morals. And then the way this episode ended, they're in Kate's mom's place. She's hacking away on the computer trying to find out, where these got criminal records. He hears a noise. He goes wandering through, and there's the swordsman with the Ronin sword holding it to Clint's neck. That there'll be some splaining to do next episode. A, where the hell did you get my sword? B, that's my sword. C, no, I'm not Ronin, but that's my sword. It's going to be an interesting little back and forth. Maybe we'll get to see Clint and the swordsman duke it out a bit before Kate jumps in and it's a misunderstanding. I thought he was an intruder. So I hope that happens. Even if it doesn't, it's still going to be awesome. I like the way this series is turning out. I'm having fun so far. Every Wednesday is going to be a fun time. So anyone else?
So yeah, definitely. Anyone else?
Jeez, how did the guy in the tux talk so much this episode when he didn't even move his mouth? He's not only wearing a tux, he's a ventriloquist.
I'm not giving away all my superpowers.
Well, he's actually the dummy. So
yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
why.
what Gavin was saying for the last 3 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, yeah, all the hallmarks of such an entertaining Marvel, it's the best of the Marvel in a TV show. It's what we love about Marvel. It's what we want to see from Marvel. It's got the human story to it. It's nice that it's grounded in a reality character. It's not supernatural powers. It's not magics. It's not other dimensions yet. It's not anything. Yeah. It's not anything that we have. It's a reality character because we are dealing with a character that has no powers. This guy's just trained a lot to do what he does, and this is how his life is and how
you're right. His power is he hits his target.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's not like
That's
he
his
has a
power.
mutant ability to it. It's not like he was bitten by some sort of like
Radioactive arrow.
radioactive arrow. He wasn't hit by a radioactive arrow or something like
Or
that. Yeah,
radioactive
exactly.
bow, clacked him alongside the head.
Oh, what?
Exactly. And I love how like humble Hawkeye is, how Clint is like, yeah. And
You know what? That's a great point, because the way the character is at this point, has so much PTSD. He's done so many evil things for 5 years. Like, he basically turned into Frank Castle for 5 years and just went on a murderous rampage.
Mhm.
And now he's trying to get back to his normal self. But those memories of all the people he killed and all the things he's done, like, that's circling around his head.
Mhm.
The friends that he's lost, like the amount of Avengers from the original team that are gone, right?
Yep.
That's
I mean,
Oh,
Nat
like,
is
way
a
down.
huge
yeah.
weight on his soul, because it's not just, lost Tony, lost Cap. He was there when Natasha sacrificed herself, and they fought over who got to sacrifice themselves, and he lost the most important battle of his life in not being able to give his.
Right.
Yeah.
But then he's there for his family now. So it's like he lost, but okay, now he's got to continue on that legacy despite all the crap. And then with the hearing loss, that's like another wound. They've created a great character in Hawkeye in this.
And the
Like,
fact
you
that
couldn't have done it
he
better.
explained he's for the last 20 years, his whole job was to be a ghost.
I love
Yeah,
that part.
yeah.
He
Oh,
doesn't
for
want to
sure,
be in the limelight. He doesn't want the
Yeah.
branding. His whole was not to be noticed. That's why you
Yeah.
had Iron Man up front. That's why you had Captain America. You had the Hulk. You had Thor. He was there, but he was,
Right,
tucked
because
away in the back doing his
He was
thing.
an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, the way he's introduced into the MCU, he was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, he is the guy in the shadows. His job is to take out a target from a far distance. Like, that's what he does. And then somehow he ended up with a bunch of freaks fighting aliens and space gods. And it's like, okay, he held his own, survived that battle. So
Kate Bishop's rendition of his rebranding was phenomenal, though. It was spot on.
I
called
thought that
up
was
some
great.
pictures to
In the
show
beach.
Amanda, and it was like, oh, he's even got like the wing things over his eyes. It's perfect. I mean, it looks like it was drawn by a fifth grader, but it was perfect.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. I've noticed all the TV series are bringing callbacks to the original costume designs from the comic books,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
We had the classic Loki. We had
Loki was thick with
you know,
that. Yeah.
we had Wanda and Vision trick-or-treating in their
Mhm.
classic costumes.
Yeah.
Like, so I thought we were going to get him in the costume during the LARPing event. I'm glad we didn't, because it was more funny the way they did.
No,
But
there is. Yes, there is someone. We don't see him in the actual episode, but they released a little meet the LARPers sort of like mini little, like less than a minute little trailer
they?
where they introduce it.
Yeah.
There's someone dressed up in the background in the Hawkeye.
I knew
classic
they were going to
comic
stick it.
book.
I missed that.
It's
Okay, I'm going to have to look for that.
Oh yeah, it's dude, it goes by so quick. But there is a guy in the classic purple. It's a dark purple, and it's a really good leather look, but it is the classic Hawkeye.
Nice.
And unfortunately, he's not in the final episode because I think he's cut out of it because they introduced
so it
that
was
drawing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
because I figured that if they were going to put it in, it would be there.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm gonna have.
So
to
there is a
dig for that.
LARPer that has the classic Hawkeye costume, but it's only in that little featurette that I put in our little messages and all that. Oh wait, I think Trevor has picture evidence. It looks like there's purple coming up on his screen, and there it is. There.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's right down to the
you
H.
see the H on
Yeah.
his head
Yeah. Yeah.
and the double blunt arrow.
I love the fact that they're blunt arrows. Yes. Yeah. That is
that's
so
great.
good. That is so good.
And so
Again,
go ahead, Troy.
and again, I believe it's the same director directing all the episodes. I'm hoping that this is an ongoing trend because one of my favorite tropes, a one shot. It is a minute and 20 seconds long. The whole entire camera inside the car as they're driving around. and
Oh
all
yeah,
that sort of thing.
that's a
It's
great
just
moment.
So beautifully done.
Yeah. Those things are so good. Like, there's so much that's done right in this episode. I love the fact that it calls back to the Black Widow doing the interrogation from Avengers. The fact that Hawkeye's all duct taped up and he's not concerned for a second.
No, he's just
Right,
like,
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it's like those callbacks done well. The way they've done it is great, and I love the fact that he had everything under control until she fell through the skylight. It's like, crap, isn't it? And as a father, understand what that's like. You got things under control, and then the kids show up. It's like, now it's a whole another layer of
Whoa.
complexity. And yeah, the car chase sequence was phenomenal. I love how Hawkeye didn't get to use the bow because he had to drive the car. That's such a great story moment to let Kate have to deal with everything. The trick arrows in this were so much fun. Like more trick arrows in that car chase that I think we've seen in the entire MCU.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Pym particle arrow was just epic. Like when he pulled that one back, everybody in the family like, wait, whoa, what's that Santa? Pym? What? And it shoots it up into the air. Just
I had a
giant,
question
satellite spike
of later that day. Who got to remove the giant arrow from the bridge?
from the bridge, exactly.
That'd be damage control.
Which company pulls up and goes, oh shit?
For sure, that would be damage control.
Yeah,
that's
I
such a
want
damage
Disney
control
Plus to do a damage control series.
I've always wanted that.
Would watch the hell out of that because they could do all like a lot of the big battles from the movies and stuff, and just show us the aftermath of them.
Yes.
They can make it a really half decent animated series.
They could do that.
No, live action has to be live action. It has to merge with the
as
MCU.
long as they do.
I've been campaigning for 10 years at least, maybe more than that.
The very first issue of
Kevin
Damage
Feige,
Control.
if you want this, just hire me on. We will do it.
Yeah, the very first issue of Damage Control, and the foreman's talking to the guy, and he's talking about, wait a second, wait, and you see one of the workers grabbing like a glowing green orb, like, my place is no longer here, and he's like, crap, we just had an origin. Get HR to hire someone new.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, I want to see that live action. Make it a Disney Plus series. Make it 10 episodes. You can pick a different battle aftermath of them cleaning up, and then all
there's so much to work with.
You have you could even shoot it in the format of like The Office, like almost like a little documentary going on as they're documenting the damage control team as they go from. And one of the episodes could be them dealing with a giant arrow stuck in a bridge. And like,
right?
Crap.
Like, what's going on here? Another Pym incident.
Yeah. So, yeah, Feige, if you're listening or someone knows Feige, get a damage control show on the map. Get going on that.
Yeah. And then just so for as far as this episode goes, Echo I thought was pretty good all the way through. Tragic with seeing Ronan basically just massacring everybody. It's like, oh yeah, Clint's done some damage. Be interesting to see how all that pulls together with the next few episodes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like Trevor said in his pre-recorded segment, the ending of this, like, we know he's the swordsman, and comic books, we know they have a connection. I'm curious if they're going to keep a connection in this series or if they're just going to be strangers. But either way, it's going to be an epic conclusion, and there's so much that you can work with. So yeah, the whole family's 100% hooked, and we can't wait till the next Wednesday. And one interesting thing is, because a lot of times I get critical on a lot of Marvel episodes, and that's okay, Adrian, we'll be here. But yeah, with a lot of other people that I watch online that share similar ideas that I do, a lot of people were criticizing Hawkeye, and I think that's blowback from a lot of things we've gotten over the last year, which myself personally I haven't been that excited about. Things like Falcon Winter Soldier, things like Black Widow movie. But when I'm hearing the criticisms on this show, it's like, I'm not seeing it. I don't understand it. So it's kind of fun to see people that normally take my critical view are still being critical, although I'm 100% in. So I like being on that positive end of the spectrum and wanting to see more. What do you think, Gavin?
Well, you guys have really kind of gone the gamut over exactly what made this episode great.
Trevor.
No, that tuxedo guy doesn't seem to be saying much, but that other loudmouth guy seemed to really say something.
Oh, that bum-looking guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say, if I don't see a boxing glove arrow at some point during this show, I will revolt. They've the why do almost every single one of those looks like a dildo? Why are they pink?
I guess it all depends on the store you're shopping at.
And there was just a quick side note. Florence Pugh is slated in IMDb as being in 3 Hawkeye episodes. We only have 3 episodes left, so we're going to see.
I knew she was in it, but I didn't know it was.
I have a feeling we're going to see her at the end of the next episode, and then the 2 episodes after. I want to see her and Echo go at it. Nice, good girl fight. Really set the series off. All right, back to you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I enjoyed it. That car sequence, absolutely, that chase sequence was phenomenal. Whipping out the trick arrows, one of the best uses of the trick arrows I've ever seen. Just keep blindly firing an arrow and basically, wait, a suction cup arrow? Wait, a goo arrow? What's that one?
Well, now that we're done with all of that, we're going to move on to our next subject, and that's going to be our top 10. Now, what we've done is the past couple of weeks, we've been culminating our lists of top 10 favorites and movies that are personal to us, sort of thing, and we've been waxing on poetically about each of those movies. And this particular week, we come up to our number 7 films. So what we are going to do is we are going to basically go on to this, and I believe we're going to have Mr. Brown start off with his number 7. So Trevor, what's your number 7?
I'm glad you asked that, Troy. Give me a second while I do a quick change, because I'm severely overdressed to talk about my 7th favorite film of all time. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Troy. And yes, what is my 7th favorite film of all time? Well, this film was actually made the year I was born, 1973. It was released December 26th, or the day after Christmas in 1973. Running time of 122 minutes. It was made for $12 million and raked in an astonishing $441 million at the box office. It was directed by William Friedkin, and it is probably one of the scariest movies I have ever seen in my life. It is 1973's film, The Exorcist. How to begin? It's all about. It starts in Iraq, in an ancient city. A Catholic priest finds a sculpture that resembles Pazuzu, demon of ancient origins, and it's such a great start to a film. So we immediately hop over to Georgetown, and there's an actress living on location with their 12-year-old daughter Regan, and some oddities begin occurring in the house. It's just like, scratching from the attic, and there's no source. And they play with a Ouija board and contacting a supposedly imaginary friend she calls Captain Howdy. Regan begins to act really strange, using obscene language, exhibiting like superhuman strength, things like that. And things kind of rapidly go downhill from there. She goes through a bunch of tests. The doctors find nothing psychologically wrong with her. And they basically, the doctors are believing that, all this is psychological. They recommend an exorcism, citing its effectiveness on patients who believe themselves to be possessed. And it's more like a placebo. So mom arranges a meeting, to at least speak with, for a priest to speak with Reagan. And, the guy Karras is extremely, he's like, he's very skeptical. This is nothing. But she begins speaking different languages, and the word help me is carved from the inside of her stomach. And this makes him believe she's actually possessed by a real demon. So he implores the church to
an exorcism, but the church says you're not experienced enough, so they call on Lancaster Merrim, the guy from the start, the Catholic priest, the veteran church, and basically begins a huge battle of the wills. They try many attempts to exorcise the demon. The spirit really digs in, claiming to be the devil himself. It plays with the priests, hones in on their guilt, like Karras's guilt from passing of his mother. And it's just, it's a really intense scene. And the other priest, Marin, dies of a heart attack. So Karras had left the room, and Marin continues the exorcism alone. And when Karras comes back in, Marin has died of a heart attack, and he fails to revive him, and he gets enraged and he grabs Regan, wrestles her to the ground, and at his own invitation, he has the demon leave Regan's body and come into his own. And in this final moment of strength before the demon takes full control, he throws himself out of the window, falls to his death down a series of stone steps, and they believe defeating the demon at last. A couple days later, Regan's back to normal, and they're headed back to LA. And this movie, when I saw it, obviously I didn't see it when it came out because I was not even a year old. I saw this movie, I think, when I was 11 or 12. And I had nightmares for a couple of days after seeing this movie. I slept with a light on for a couple of days after this movie. And it's got an amazing cast. Max von Sydow is the elder priest. Linda Blair is Regan. It was such an amazing film. And this movie was one that it had such a profound effect on me when it came to horror films, because this set the bar so high that there were very few films that could scare me after this. Alien, a couple of jump scares, but there was no films like Hellraiser, stuff like psychological films, like Silence of the Lambs, stuff like just ran right off me. You couldn't touch me after The Exorcist. Nothing scared me. Well, maybe one or two, but other than that, it was very rare for me to get truly scared, have nightmares after seeing the movie. And I remember when I was making this list, and I was like, all right, I'm going to need some sort of horror movie or horror genre movie to see, to kind of round out, because I do like horror films, like Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and so on and so forth. And this movie jumped into my head, second horror movie I thought of was I gotta add The Exorcist somewhere. And as I was eliminating films from my list, The Exorcist kept climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. And when it cracked the top 10, I knew, all right, this is going to stay. And I'm back from the jump cut here. So as I was saying, this movie, as it went up the list, I realized this was in my top 10. Now, before making this list, if someone said, would The Exorcist be in your top 10 films? I probably would have been like, I don't know. But the more I thought about it, the more I like, yeah, it is. This movie is almost like a perfect storm of psychological, physical, it's a type of horror that we have really nothing to combat. If an aliens, you chop them up, or Freddy, stay awake, or you're fighting demons. And the fact that it took a self-sacrifice from the one priest to eliminate the threat of the demon, not kill the demon, just pull it out of the little girl, is such, it's kind of a sidestepping the way of getting rid of the problem without getting rid of the problem. And the movie has such an iconic poster of the light coming from the window in the darkened street. Everything's in silhouette. The cinematography in this film is the cinematographer, Owen Roisman. That man knows how to compose a shot. He really does. This movie now, you gotta remember, this movie was made in 1973. This movie's almost 50 years old. It's 48 years old, and still easily stands the test of time. Like, easily stands the test of time. And I believe in 2010, the Library of Congress selected the film as part of its National Film Registry, citing it as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And those words don't do it justice. To me, The Exorcist is a perfect horror film. It's a horror film that when the credits roll, it stays with you. It's a film that days later, you'll see something or hear something or someone will say something and it triggers just that feel, that the chills that run up your spine and up your neck, and you're just like, oh, and you're praying internally that don't ever let it happen to me, because I don't know if I'd be equipped to handle it. I don't know if I would have the wherewithal to understand what is happening until it's far too late. And that's why The Exorcist is my 7th favorite movie of all time.
Definitely for sure, Trevor. I completely agree with you. A masterpiece of not only filmmaking, but of the horror genre as well. This was when I got into watching modern horror. This was one of the first movies I saw as well. And the exact same thing. It really was a terrifying film. I mean, again, I was like 12, 13 and all that when I got around to seeing it. My parents were okay with me seeing it because my mom had seen the movie as well, and it scared the bejesus out of her when she originally saw it in 73. My dad as well. The two of them, I think, actually went on a date to see the movie, because it was like, I was like 2 at the time, right? So I mean, I think they went out to the theater to see it and whatnot, and so several years later, when I was like, I want to see this Exorcist movie that I'm hearing all things about, like the pea soup and all that sort of thing. Again, a part of the movie that captured me is like the look of it. I like, oh, how is that done? Oh my God, her head's spinning around. How is that done? And whatnot. Sure, the language was probably a little more than my little ear should have been hearing, but yeah.
It explains some things.
Yeah, it totally does.
Honestly, this movie was one that, in essence, desensitized me to other horror movies because they just couldn't measure up. Like, ooh, It's a big scary monster.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is the exact kind of genre which actually like scarred me for life against this kind of horror. It's like the Nightmare on Elm Street, The Exorcist. It fills me with existential dread, existential horror, and it's that kind of that lingering terror that just sticks with you, which is why I just can't do these movies. Like, I mean, granted, I was like 12 or 13 watching this, but I mean, I nope right out of that. Oh man.
Yeah, for me, I'm the guy in the group who doesn't like horror movies. But if I was to rank order horror movies, this would be my favorite. And even if we were to extend our list into the top 20, this would probably make the cut, because there's something so deep. Like what I don't like about the horror slasher, just kind of violence porn movies, is it doesn't seem like there's any deeper meaning to it. But there's something about this movie that cuts so deep that anytime I watch it, I'm just captivated. So yes, it is a horror. Yes, it is scary, but it speaks to my soul in a way that I think this is a great story, and I can watch it again and again and again. And in fact, back when I was at Tippett working on Constantine, there's a scene where the girl's tied up in the bed and the demon's inside her, and they have to like pull the demon out through the mirror. And
Right.
that was a fun moment because it's like, oh, this kind of feels like The Exorcist. Like, this is really cool. Like, I'm having so much fun animating this.
What's funny is I rewatched The Exorcist about 2 years ago, and I felt the stronger connection with the parent as being a parent. Like, this was my daughter.
Yeah.
What lengths would I go to? And I'm like, I would totally take that presupposition and pull the demon into me and then kill myself to get rid of the demon to save my daughter. And I'm like, where did that thought come from? Why would I do that? And I'm like, yeah, I would do that. Yeah. And so seeing this film as a child and then seeing it as an adult, especially as a parent, it's if anything, it's even worse as a parent, because you're like, oh my God, if that was my kid, what do I do?
And you know what? You make a good point about that, Trevor, because the movies, at least for me anyway, the ones that have that longevity are the ones that you watch it when you're young and you take a bunch and it changes you. Like, you take something about that message and carry it in your soul, but then you can watch it 30 years later from a different perspective and it hits you on a whole different level.
Yeah. That speaks to just how complete of a movie it truly is.
Yeah. And again, it's not only a wonderful feat of horror, it's a wonderful feat of just filmography itself. It's, again, the casting and like the directing and the cinematography and the special effects that, again, stuff like that hadn't been done at that time. I mean, it was
this was the precursor to the blockbuster.
Yeah, exactly.
People lined up in droves to see The Exorcist, and they were lining up, around Christmas and through New Year's to see The Exorcist. That's why it made like $400+ million in 1973.
Yeah.
That's a crap load of money.
Yeah. For sure. Alrighty then. So moving on, I believe we're going to go to Mr. Mike and allow him to wax on poetically about his number 7. Hey, Mike, what's your number 7?
Right. So this is a movie that was released on June 22nd, 1988, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Oh, who am I kidding? Troy already gave you all the stats last week. This movie is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So when this movie came out, I was 13 years old, and something in me changed when I watched this movie. It's one thing that is fun about this movie is because it's the first one to appear on 2 lists. When you talked about this last week, I was like, I knew this had to happen sometime. Yeah, because it's like we have so many shared interests. It's like, when's this going to happen? So when you mentioned this last week, I was just kind of tickled that I'd have to be the first one to follow up a previous review. But this is a movie that combines a whole bunch of my favorite things. So when I was a little kid, I loved comic books. And one of my favorite things about comic books was that you could do anything. And in comic books, you had the crossover. You could have Spider-Man teamed up with Superman. You could have Batman versus Predator. You could have just like random TV stars showing up in the latest comic book. Anything was possible. Another favorite thing was Saturday morning cartoons, specifically Warner Brothers. And that's one of the things that got me into animation, is just watching Warner Brothers cartoons every Saturday morning. The other thing that was a huge impact on me growing up was special effects in movies. So growing up with Star Wars, you wonder, how did they do this thing? Like, there's spaceships and AT-AT walkers and all these things that are like beyond your imagination. How do these people create these things? Now, here comes a movie that just combines all of my favorite things into this one perfect ball of joy. And it's wrapped up in a hard-boiled detective movie, which is one of my favorite genres. So, like, everything about this movie just completely blew my mind. And one fun thing with this movie is it's definitely a movie of its era. You could never do it again, because back in the time, everything was analog. So it's shot on film. It's hand animated with 2D. All the special effects are practical. And if you were to animate a movie like this today, you would just computer animate it. You'd have CG guns in the weasel's hands and tune shade what you needed to. Like, the technology has caught up to the point where something like this wouldn't be as special, and it wouldn't have that same kind of magic like when this movie was released. And Troy, you taught me something which I didn't know. I did not know it was the most expensive movie at the time. So that was a little fun fact I got from last week. So with the opening of this movie, the Maroon cartoon, and again, being a huge fan of Warner Brothers, I remember sitting in the theater, and it's funny, I don't remember where I saw this because it was a summer release. So it was either at the Cottage or in Milton. But like, externally from the movie, I don't remember where I was or what happened, but I remember sitting in the seat and seeing like a perfect Warner Brothers style cartoon with Disney animation, with unbelievable effects in the theater. And right from the opening scene, my brain exploded. So that whole short with Baby Herman and Roger Rabbit, like, if it was just that 4 minutes, I would have been happy and gone home, completely satisfied. But you go through the whole cartoon and then it cuts to the live action. And that's one thing where, like, that's the moment where it pulls out from the cartoon into the real world. And it's funny that it's Joel Silver as the director. And I always thought it was Newman from Seinfeld. For the longest time, I thought that's who I thought it was. What's the name? Wayne Knight. I thought that was the person acting it until I ended up digging around. It's like, Joel Silver, what the hell? So that's another little fun fact. And it's great that they shot the whole cartoon in a single take. He screwed up with the Tweety birds instead of stars, and then you had to do it again. So again, as a kid, that's hilarious because you watch all this chaos and they have to do a second take. So Eddie Valiant, played by Bob Hoskins. Fun fact here is the fact that Eddie Murphy was on the short list to play the role, but he never got the memo because he was hard to reach. One fun thing is imagining what this movie would have been like with Eddie Murphy. And I think that Bob Hoskins is the better choice, because I think Eddie Murphy would upstage the cartoons, where, just like he does in Scrooged, where he's going up against all these crazy ghosts. But no, Scrooge is he's Scrooge. He's the central character. He upstages the ghosts. Whereas if he was upstaging the cartoons in this, what are you going to say, Troy?
Mike, did you mean to say Bill Murray or Eddie Murphy?
Bill Murray.
You said
Is
Eddie
that what
Murphy.
I said?
And that
Eddie
makes
Murphy.
it
That's what I was like.
now that makes it a
Beverly Hills
completely
Cop?
different movie. Eddie Murphy makes it a completely different movie.
Sorry, folks, it's late. Let's rewind.
I could see where Bill Murray. Yes, I can see where Bill Murray would make it completely. He would definitely upstage. Yes.
Okay,
Continue
so
on.
yeah, backing up again, folks. This is the Late Night Podcast, and Trevor's wearing a tuxedo. Has been talking a lot. So yeah, Bill Murray is on the short list for this character. He would have taken the role. He says in all the interviews, if he knew he was up for it, he would have taken it. But yeah, so if you compare Bob Hoskins to Bill Murray, Bob Hoskins is a lot more reserved, a lot more grounded, a lot more down to earth. But I'd be really curious to see what it would look like with Bill Murray in that role.
Bob Hoskins was like the perfect straight man for it.
He was.
He was just so deadpan with a lot of his delivery.
Right.
It was perfect for what.
Yeah, he could go slapstick. He could play the intensity. He could talk to the invisible rabbit. But yeah, it's like Roger Rabbit is the main character, and he didn't upstage, the main lead of the movie. So I thought that was amazing. The Cloverleaf plot, brilliant conspiracy theory. I love conspiracies. So, and the fact that they'll just feed all this information through the movie. And again, like, this is, a classic Robert Zemeckis move where he's giving you all the information, like everything you need to know is right in front of your eyes, right from the start, all the way to the end. And again, it's like, what is any idea? Only a tune could come up with this. Of course. Okay, Aiken Paint Club. So this has to be one of my favorite moments in cinematic history. So you start off with these two ducks doing a piano duet with speech impediments, trying to blow each other apart with cannons. And again, you've never seen anything like this before, right? It's these 2D animated characters in a live action setting, perfectly integrated. Warner Brothers character, Disney character. And again, my 13-year-old brain was just exploding from watching this. And then there was the follow-up act. That was another one where, brain exploded again. It's like, I mean, I like silly cartoons, but yeah, the follow-up act was very impressive. And, it's when Jessica Rabbit shows up, it's not just the drawings and the song and dance number, but this is like what you were saying, Troy, about like watching zombie films. Like you watch this and then afterwards you go, how in the hell did they do this? You see the cartoon dress with sparkles on it. You see realistic cast shadows everywhere. You see human characters with their fabric being moved by a cartoon.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I have to learn how this happened. And like, I want to be a part of something like this at some point in my life. And actually 2 years later, so I was 13 when I watched the movie, but 2 years later, the family ended up going to MGM Studios. So we were down in Florida for a trip. And like, this is a picture from meeting Roger Rabbit's wife.
That's fantastic. See, you did have hair at one time.
I did. Yeah.
But still wearing a baseball cap.
Always wearing the baseball cap. I knew it was coming. But when we were down at MGM, like the impact from this movie, and one thing interesting with MGM is they had animators. They were like an exhibit in the zoo where you could walk by the glass walls and see animators working. It was horrible because I was thinking about being an animator at the time. It's like, oh my God, is this what I'm going to become? But while we were there, my father went and talked to some of the animators and was asking, hey, my kid's interested in animation. What are some good schools for animation? He came back with a short list of 10 studios. So one was Cal Arts in California. Second one was Sheridan College in Oakville. It's like, oh my God, that's right next door. It's like, done. So in a weird sort of way, the whole experience with Who Framed Roger Rabbit ended up getting me into Sheridan and animation and meeting all you fine folks.
Oh, so Robert Zemeckis is responsible for us meeting? That's so sweet.
So another fun thing with Roger Rabbit is the fact that there's all these censored moments. So Ink and Paint Club, and I've never seen the Laserdisc because I've never owned a Laserdisc player, but apparently there's the Betty Boop nip slip that happens for one frame that gets edited out later. And then there's the classic, Jessica getting bumped out of Benny the Cab and doing the spiral, and you get the Jessica upskirt. But there's something about that too, which creates the legend and makes it dangerous. And I remember when we were in college together, we went to Reg Hart in Toronto and watched the uncensored Warner Brothers. And again, it's that same sort of thing. Like, yeah, it's a silly cartoon, but they can be dangerous. There's something that can be slightly outlaw about it. Like the fact that you have a drawing that needs to be censored. There's something about that just appeals to me. The silly cartoon can be that dangerous. So anyways, another part, the subplot with Eddie's brother, Theodore J. Valiant. That's something that hit me as a kid. But then when my brother Blair passed away 2 years ago, and I rewatched that cut deep. Like that's a whole nother level. And this is the kind of thing where, we're talking about things can affect you as a child. Then you watch it again older. Like I watched those sequences and it's just like a stab to my soul. So that makes me relate a lot more to the Eddie Valiant character. And then again, you get further into the story and all the things we talked about last week, like the handcuff and like the way, the Weasel's interactions with props and guns and water, the Benny the Cab sequence where you have a human driving a cartoon cab and you have weasels driving a realistic car. It just keeps going and going and going. And then the laugh yourself to death moment. So that's something that's built up through the whole movie. And Eddie Valiant saves the day with a song and dance number. And he makes the weasels laugh themselves to death. Again, it's brilliant. It's just great storytelling. And then finally, Judge Doom. So Christopher Lloyd, the fact he never blinked through the entire movie. That was a fun fact that I didn't really notice originally because he's always wearing the goggles. But once I learned that fact, I started watching every single take. Yeah, the dude doesn't blink. And then when I showed this to my kids, like they had the same reaction I did throughout the entire movie. And Judge Doom terrified them. So for them, they think he's one of the greatest villains of all time, just like I did. So anyways, yeah, Roger Rabbit, this is a movie that completely changed me. When I saw it, I was a different person, and I can watch it now. My kids have the same reaction, and it's just held up. So yeah, easy to make it into my top 10.
For sure. Like you mentioned, it, like I covered it last week, and for a lot of the same reasons too. I mean, it's a first in many instances. It's just so entertaining as well. It's not only visually stunning, it's actually a really well done movie, whether or not it's an amazing feat of animation and technical like special effects and whatnot. It's just a fantastic movie to watch. So when you showed it to your kids, how young were your kids when you showed it to them for the first time?
I mean, the kids are wide spectrum, but probably it was like 3 or 4 years ago was the first time.
So they would have been around your age when you roughly
the older
saw
ones
it.
would have been.
Yeah.
And then over the summer we watched it again. So like it's definitely multiple viewings. It's high on their list. And one thing about Richard Williams, I have to mention that too, because like the animator that was involved with this just became like an animation god. Like I keep
yes,
the animation
yes.
Animator
survival kit. Yeah.
Like anytime I work,
you've got yours as well.
That's a book that I keep on my desk at all times, all the time. And again, I've been animating for over 25 years now, but I always keep that around because you just flip that open. There we go. Like,
is Gavin looking for his copy?
Gavin's looking for it. But yeah, if anybody wants to be an animator, and I say this because I've gone to Sheridan and talked to students, and people come to me when their kids want to animate. Like, just buy the book. The amount you can learn from that is incredible.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go on with my number 7 pick. And my number 7 pick is going to be pretty much what Mike just did with his. But you know what? My number 7 pick was released in 1984, June 8th to be precise. And it's just weird that it happens to be this way. It's basically a movie that we've been talking about for quite a bit over the past little while. And that's Ghostbusters. And we have gone on the big time when we decided to do this top 10 list. I knew it was going to be in my top 10. But then when we got around to it, it's like, oh, we're going to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife and all the Ghostbusters movies. Well, you know what? This movie, it just hit me at the time that it was. It was how we felt about seeing Afterlife, what Trevor just recently talked about in this particular episode alone, and what Gavin and I went on about in the previous episode about Afterlife, how we felt about watching that particular movie is how I also felt about watching Ghostbusters for the first time. It was, again, one of the first movies that I was able to see on my own. I was with friends when I originally saw it, and because again, back in 1984, kids could go friggin' however young we were to go see the movie and all that. And I think it's like 13 or something like that. Sure, you could go off to the theater and see it for yourself. It's only going to cost like $5 to see a movie. Why not? And me and my buddies went to see it. We loved it so much. Like by the end of the weekend, we were seeing it a second time and all that. And it was just such a fascinating, not only a funny movie, not only a slightly scary movie, not only an entertaining movie, but it was just so like special effects wise, it was so endearing. I've known a bunch of the actors from following from like Saturday Night Live and all that. So I also had that in my back pocket to enjoy the characters and all that. But again, it was just a fascinating ride to be witnessing in this. And because when you were sitting in the theater watching this for the first time in that theater that was packed full of people, like everyone reacting to this movie, you didn't know what you were expecting. There was not much, or at least at the time, I couldn't remember much. I remember the poster art. I remember people having t-shirts and all that with the No Ghost logo, posters of the No Ghost logo, the phrase, who you gonna call? And then Ghostbusters, June 8th, 19 whatever, and all that. And that there wasn't a lot of, I don't remember seeing a lot of commercials, which is another thing. So I think it was just more of a, hey, this is going to sound like something really cool. We've got a bunch of these actors coming together. It's going to be a comedy. It's going to be about them trying to hunt ghosts and all that. And there you go. But I don't think the audiences were prepared to see something that was such an entertaining, good time. I mean, the movie's 105 minutes long. It basically cost between 25 and 30 million dollars to make, and it made 295 million dollars in its opening, like first release, and that made it the second highest grossing movie of that year. So I mean, it was just, and again, it's a movie that stayed in the theaters for months. It was out there for quite a while at a time when movies would do that sort of thing. So you got a chance to see a movie several times in the theater. When the movie first came out on VHS, of course, you buy a copy, but it's not as good because it's like a full screen version. And like, you know what, it was kind of hard to get your hands on a widescreen version of any movie and all that. So you watch it like that. You see it on TV. Again, it's a full screen version. When you get the DVD for the first time and you're able to watch it again for the first time in widescreen, and you see all the stuff you remember, you are like, oh, right, I remember there was extra to that scene and all that. And it's just, again, a fascinating watch. Like I said, I dressed up as a Ghostbuster that Halloween. I made my own everything from scratch sort of thing. Looked nothing like the proton pack, looked nothing like the proton accelerator, nothing like that. But it was a Ghostbuster costume, and I was recognized as a Ghostbuster because, you know what, I'm pretty sure there were other kids dressed up as Ghostbusters as well. Later on in life, I've met a bunch of buddies who I do cosplay with, and we have been, well, it's been stalled. We come together, the force. We've made Ghostbuster costumes. We have like jumpsuits. We've even gone so far as to do steampunk Ghostbusters and all that sort of thing. So we have the whole entire like gears and whatnot on these Ghostbuster things that we made and all that. And yeah, so I mean, as a community too, it's such an inviting thing. It's something where you can say, hey, I like Star Wars. You find that group of people easily enough. I like Marvel movies. You find those people easily enough. You say Ghostbusters, the exact same thing. There is such an inviting sort of community, and the community's been there all along, because back in 1984, hey, I saw Ghostbusters. Every other kid on the street has seen Ghostbusters. It's something you guys can all talk about. And it's just something that has stuck with me all this time. And again, I have enjoyed every iteration of Ghostbusters after that, but coming down to the core of it, the original Ghostbusters, because again, a lot of the stuff on my list is what hit me at an influential age, and it's stuff that has stuck with me. It's stuff that I will watch over and over and over again. I will be cleaning the kitchen and all that, and I'll pull up my phone and just play Ghostbusters on my phone. Won't even watch it. It's one of those movies where you don't have to watch it. You just hear it and you know what's going on. You can tell by the music which scene is coming up. You can tell by the creepy sound effects where you are in the scene. You can quote it line for line for line. You can quote.
That's a big Twinkie.
That is a big Twinkie, yeah. But it's, again, another thing that makes a movie such a good movie is its quotability. And again, movies on my list are completely quotable pretty much every single day. You can walk into a room, say one line, and you will get either the response to it or another line from the movie or something like that, knowing that you're going to hit the mark with almost any of these lines. And Ghostbusters is just that. So
Where do these stairs go?
they go up. And exactly. So it's just, and again, we have talked on and on and on about Ghostbusters the past couple of weeks. It's just so weird that it happened to be this week that my number 7, Ghostbusters.
Oh, we'll be talking more soon.
Oh, we will. Again, it's
Hint?
yeah, exactly. So we're going to move on to Mr. Gavin. And so, Mr. Gavin, have you had enough time to tell us what your number 7 is?
Yes, I have, and it's I think you're going to call it a bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to proceed here.
If the movie is cop out, that's going to be awesome.
Released in 2001 with a total runtime of 558 minutes. It's been billed as unfilmable and yet attempted multiple times, but never on a scale like this. This version truly encompasses the sheer epicness of this incredible story, and it's absolutely unfair to separate one part from the entire story. My number 7 is Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I won't give a synopsis because doing so would take as long as the actual trilogy, possibly even the extended edition. But almost every scene from this epic trilogy encompassed the mental visuals I saw in my head reading the original books. Almost every scene, the casting from Elijah Wood as Frodo, Sir Ian McKellen as Gandalf, Sean Astin as Samwise, Orlando Bloom as Legolas, Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn, Andy Serkis as Gollum, and John Rhys Davies and as Gimli. Like, everyone was cast perfectly to how I pictured them in my head. The toll of the burden of the ring on Frodo was just, he pulled that off beautifully. Gollum managed to be one of the most, both the most menacing villains and the most pitiable creatures. He felt like one of the most real actors on set, and yet he was the most believable digital actor on screen, captured by Andy Serkis. Like, I've never seen anything quite like that. Many attempts to create like a fully CGI character, but nothing came close to what it did. He felt real. He felt like he was talking directly to Frodo and Samwise. Every interaction with him felt real. Like, it was an incredible accomplishment as a digital character. The journey, the battles, the battle at Helm's Deep, the Ents versus Isengard, the Fellowship versus the Goblins of Moria, the final battle at Blackgate, all felt like the incredible battles I kept playing again and again and again in my mind as I'm reading these books. But the Battle of Minas Tirith just took my breath away. I defy anyone not to jump up and shout in triumph as the riders of Rohan smash into Sauron's army. Sorry. Cat scratching on things. This is the first time I was absolutely speechless at the sheer love and care put into something of this scale. Like, everything that Peter Jackson had a hand in has been like amazing. But this, you could tell he truly respected the original material. When we watched the original Bilbo Baggins, animated movie with that god awful bleating goat song, and they called him Bilbo, Bilbo. It was awful. Just nothing about it felt like Lord of the Rings. Like, and then what's his name? Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings was just like an absolute abomination. Nothing about that felt like he respected the material. Peter Jackson revered Tolkien's material. I mean, just incredible scale, like putting the perspective, like the size difference between hobbits and humans, like using that forced perspective effect to give you a visual feel. When Peter Jackson was more or less forced to do the Hobbit as a trilogy, and you hear about Ian McKellen breaking down on set because it was all CG. Like nothing about that felt like it had the love and care that Peter Jackson put in the original Lord of the Rings. The Ents, the ogres, the Olifants, everything felt like it was something that came to life right out of the book. The landscapes, expansive cities, the details in the swords and armor, the ring effects when Frodo put the ring on was just haunting. It just blew me away. Everything, the score, the visuals, the emotion. When that moment when Samwise basically said, "I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you." I mean, I was almost sobbing by that point in the movie. Just the emotion. I can't pick just one movie out of the three, because without the others, there is no complete story. I just can't say Fellowship is better, Return of the King is better, The Two Towers is better. There's no way to say one is better than the other, and I couldn't. And that's why the Lord of the Rings trilogy is my number 7.
I have a question for you, Gavin.
What would that be?
What do you prefer, the extended version or the theatrical release?
Oh, that is hard. I enjoyed a lot of the extended stuff, but the battle at Minas Tirith felt off about it when I watched the extended version of that battle. It just didn't hit with that when the music is swelling and the crescendo as the writers are about to impact the orcs. Something just missed with that in the extended version. The theatrical release, it was perfect. I was actually standing out of my seat in the theater during that battle. Like when they smashed into the orcs, I was actually on my feet cheering. I got a lot of weird looks.
I wish I watched that with you. That would have been amazing. I would have been standing with you.
So, Gav, I have a question. If you were only given enough time to watch one of the 3 films, which one would you pick?
Well, looks like it's suicide for me.
Good
No,
answer.
I just if someone said we have enough time to
Trevor.
watch one of the 3, which one would you watch?
Geez,
And
I
you
can
know what?
only
Let's
waste.
all answer this.
I can only waste a quarter of my day watching the Lord of the Rings movies. Which one am I going to watch?
Well, you've ruined it by saying waste.
Yeah, no. I'm only kidding. No, well, first of all, I'm going to admit that I don't think I even considered any of these movies in my top 20. And that's not to say that they're a bad movie. I just don't think they had the impact. Like, I loved watching them. We did, my buddies, my cosplay buddies and all that, we didn't dress up for them, but we did those midnight showings. We did the showing up at like 11:30 the night before the opening to a theater full of nothing but Lord of the Rings geeks and all that. They're there to see a movie, and it was fantastic. My first viewing of Fellowship of the Ring, I saw it in 4 parts over a whole entire evening while I was sweeping up the movie theaters. Because it was still physical prints, so the movies had to run through all the projectors, and it was the night before it was coming out. So there was throughout the evening of my night shift, the different theaters were showing it and all that. And every once in a while I would walk into a theater and they'd be showing it and all that. And when it got down to, I think it might've been 4:30 in the morning, the final movie was starting and we were wrapping up our shift. So I walked in and the guy was like, "Yeah, you want to watch Fellowship of the Ring with me?" And I'm like, and who else? I was like, yeah, just the two of us. I'm like, all right, fine. So I sat in an empty theater with another guy that was working for the theater, and I just watched it in silence because I'm like, oh, this is cool on a big screen in a theater all by myself practically, and it was a fun experience. And then again, I saw the other subsequent movies with my friends and all that, and it was a very entertaining movie. Don't get me wrong, Peter Jackson, fantastic. He did his like amazing tribute to this glorious series. I never read the books. I'm never a strong reader, and there was no way I was going to be able to read any of those books.
Hey, Trevor, before we go any further, can you pull the book off your shelf and read it to Troy?
Right there.
I believe it.
I have no
Mine's right there.
no doubt. I
Right
have
there.
no doubt.
And there's The Hobbit. And yeah, so I could.
I did have a copy of The Hobbit though as a kid that I think I might have read
I
through.
think everyone
maybe.
had to have a copy of The Hobbit at some point.
Hobbit,
in their life.
yeah. But it was a nice bound sort of edition and all that, had a little slip cover and all that. It was kind of neat. It always looked good on the shelf. So I think I did read that. But again, I unfortunately did not even think of these in my top 20. But I would have to say, if I were to watch one, I believe that I enjoy the introduction of the characters. I love the getting to meet the characters. I mean, I like the fact that by later on they're all working together, but by the time they end up splitting up is sort of like not so much fun and all that sort of thing for me. But I would, if I had my choice, I would watch Fellowship.
Okay, Gavin, Troy gave you a whole bunch of buffer time. It's time you answer.
I'm still loading here. Honestly, see, a lot of my love for these movies is because it captures pretty much exactly what was going on in my head when I was reading the books. Yeah, I mean, the books are a bit of a slog. They can be very, like, they can take a long time to read, especially if you don't. Oh, right. Okay. So Trevor's a speed reader.
Honestly, you know what? My daughter said that. She was like, "Why do they keep singing? Why is there?" It's like, this is amazing. Like,
I would usually I would skip a few pages when it was just nothing but singing. You know, I mean, I'm sure you remember that song from The Hobbit, where there's a whip, there's a way.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, that just popped into my head. Thank you, Gavin. I hadn't thought of that for a long time.
I'm sorry, not sorry. But I would probably say, because when I was reading the book, when I was reading the Return of the King, that battle that battle with the riders of Rohan clashing into the orcs, I pictured it so vividly in my head, but the way it was done in the movie, it was just so much better than I could have ever imagined. Like, all I had was basically, Ralph Bakshi's attempts with, like rotoscope, dudes in like riding horseback.
Oh, so bad.
And reusing the same scene again and again and again and again and again.
Ran out of money.
Oh no, totally. And it was, but still, I mean, I know that he has done some good work, but in my opinion, Ralph Bakshi has done more not so good.
More harm than good.
His bad stuff sticks out more than his good stuff for me. Like, yeah. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
I would have to say it's Return of the King for me, for sure. Just that battle, like the battle, it was just phenomenal. And that final fight when, with Aragorn, like holding up his sword and rushing to the to the gates of Mordor. It just captured what I couldn't quite put in my head, like as epically as what was actually shown on screen.
Okay, extended version or theatrical?
Theatrical, I would say. I have actually, like, in this. This is the DVD version of it. that I've now replaced all of the DVDs with the Blu-ray versions of the movie because I like this special edition so much.
That box
I'm
set
not
is a
about-
beautiful box set. Yes.
Oh, exactly. I'm not about to get rid of this. This is beautiful.
Mhm.
I still have a whole pile of DVDs that you know, for whatever reason I haven't been able to find on Blu-ray or just couldn't be bothered to get on Blu-ray, but you know, the DVD version is enough. But this I had to get the Blu-ray version, especially coming for playing the DVD version on, you know, a widescreen 1080p TV. I don't know if I could be half-assed to get the 4K version now, but this is just an incredible storytelling for me.
Yeah, for myself, the movie I would watch is Fellowship of the Ring for the same reason. It's the introduction of the characters, it's the fellowship together.
Yeah.
The ring wraiths in that are incredible.
Mhm.
Like, it's so haunting. And the Balrog with Gandalf.
I forgot. I've cosplayed as a ring wraith. I completely forgot. I cosplayed as a ring wraith. I mean,
God, there you go, Troy.
yeah.
It doesn't matter if you didn't read the book, you cosplayed it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
lived it.
I did.
Yeah, so the Balrog, the whole fly you
yeah, the
fools,
Balrog,
and the
yeah.
bridge collapsing, absolutely epic. So
And
would
that's
be
a
the
good
one I would watch.
cliffhanger. That's got a
It's
good
great.
cliffhanger ending. Yes, yeah.
And I didn't like how they veered away from the books at the ending of it. That kind of grinded at my soul, because the fact that Aragorn knew that they were leaving, like the whole point of the second movie is they're trying to save the hobbits, but they're going the wrong way. Like, that's a big story point that they just kind of changed, but I'm still willing to let that go. And I would watch the extended version for that one. As far as my viewing, Fellowship of the Ring, I like the extended version. The Two Towers, I like the extended. And then Return of the King, I like the theatrical. I think they added a bunch of crap that wasn't necessary in Return of the King. Trevor, what do you think? Answer your own question.
All right, so there are parts of each of the three movies that I like. I mean, I love the Mines of Moira and the Balrog, and the coming together of the different characters. For the second movie, I think my favorite part is slapping the Saruman out of the King of Rohan. I mean, who else but Gandalf could slap you so hard you knock the guy who's controlling him from afar onto his ass? Like, that
sounds like a wizard to me, Trevor.
Nope, that was a fighter hit. And the third movie is, to me, it's the redemption of Aragorn. Like, when he finally takes up his sword and he's fighting all the ghosts, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm the king. When that ship pulled up, the mercenary ships pulled up, and all the dead it was like a blanket of green ghosts. And like when they were flowing up the giant elephants and pulling them down, to me, that was my like, fuck yeah moment. That was now they finally have what they need to make this work. And then when the final battle at the gates, for Frodo, and then everyone, the convenient chasms. What really I don't like about Return of the King is the 15 endings.
I was gonna say 5, but yes, I guess 15 is a good.
It just feels like 15 goddamn ending. Just end the fucking. I mean, it's like, oh, we hit the ending credits. Nope.
Fade to black.
All right,
nope.
all right.
Back
Credits.
up to the
Nope. Another ending. Oh, no, another. Yeah.
Come on, I have to pee. End the movie.
And that's exactly.
They did it before James Gunn.
I was sitting there, like, oh, kind of like, all right, ending, and no, another ending. All right, now here, no, another ending. So yeah, that kind of soured Return of the King. But if I had to pick of any of the three, it would be Return of the King, because it's the culmination of the journey. It's it's the movie. So if there were 3 channels playing the film, and I could only change the channel to one of those 3 stations,
He would grab some diapers and watch.
I would watch Return of the King. Theatrical, not extended edition.
again, the difference between the two is understandable. It understands why the stuff was left out of the theater, because I mean, the theatrical versions are, I think, for a general audience, a much more palpable way to watch the movies. I mean,
And the time limit.
yeah, the time limit again. Yeah, you're not going to have people sitting in the theater for 4 hours at New Year's, because at least we were released at Christmas time, weren't they? 3 years in a row, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, in the dead of winter, fuck you, Peter Jackson. Also, you're also going to limit the amount of showings you can do within a day with a 4 whatever hour movie. So the versions we got were perfect for what it was. But don't forget, they also re-released it as a extended edition marathon that one could have gone to see, and I don't think I think that would have been not the right way to do it. Like theatrical, like to see the extended versions in a theater back to back, I don't think I could do that. That is no way. I mean, I don't even think I could do the movies back to back nowadays. I mean, if I had the time, I might attempt it, but I don't think I'd get much further than the second movie and figure, okay, I'm going to leave this next one till tomorrow. Like 3 days in a row.
We're not going to do a watch party over Christmas, Troy? No,
I don't think I'm going to do a watch party over Christmas no, there's too much others going on. I don't think I want to set aside 5 hours to watch 2 movies, because I just like, okay, pee break.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe
over
one day.
summer vacation.
Maybe. Yeah. All right, then. So on that note, we're gonna call this particular episode to an end, and because we've been going for a while, so I think we're
We
gonna
can do a
end
quick
it
one.
now.
Let's do a quick one.
Come on, just do a quick Adam Ass. It's one.
Come on.
You want to do the Adam Ass?
Yeah,
All
Come on,
right.
let's do an Adam Ass.
Okay. Here's
I
the Adam
actually
Ask that we
thought
have
about
for this
stuff.
week. You have thought about stuff? Okay, let's go on to Adam
Me too.
Asks. Let's do Adam Asks.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question.
What the hell is going on here?
What did you expect? Why so serious?
You talking to me? You talking to me?
A little short for a stormtrooper.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
What are you doing? I'm asking you a question.
And this particular week, Adam asks, what movie would you most likely like to Swede? Now, for those of you that do not know what Sweding a movie is, and that would be Michael would be one of them. There was a movie a few years ago starring Jack Black where it was called Be Kind, Rewind. And
Don't forget Mos Def was in it.
Sorry?
Mos
Def was in it too. Thank you. I was trying to think as I was saying through it, and I just wasn't coming up with the name. But thank you for that, Trevor.
You're welcome.
Working at a video store. These 2 actors, as their characters working in a video store, and they accidentally erase one of the rental VHS tapes. And
Come on, if you're gonna explain it. Mos Def's uncle owns a VHS store. Jack Black goes and gets himself magnetized, and then wanders into the store and erases everything he walks by. Because it's VHS.
Because they're VHS, yes. And so to try and make up, they decide to re-record their own versions of the movies the best way that they can. And it's a very low budget, very lo-fi special effects and whatnot. And
one shot per take.
These movies become really big hits. And so the idea is, what would you like to Swede? So Michael, seeing you've been thinking about this, what would you like to Swede?
So the first one that comes to mind is Star Wars, obviously. Although I think it would be a little bit too corny, and I don't think I could pull it off.
It'd be Hardware Wars.
Yeah, even though it came to mind, I had to rethink it. Second one that came to mind is Transformers. And I was thinking I could probably do some stop motion and actually do better than anything Michael Bay has ever done in his life in the Transformers series, just by capturing the old school animation with the toys and stop motion it. And then I started thinking, geez, that'd be a lot of work and it might be a little bit too much. So the final idea I had was Jurassic Park, because I could do that with my kids. We could take all the toy dinosaurs and we could have a big family event.
The inflatable dinosaur costume.
Yeah, you could do the whole thing. And so thinking it all through, the final answer would be Jurassic Park.
And that, from the way you were to explain it, that's more of the spirit of this movie, because they basically want to honestly do an honest version of the movie. They just unfortunately don't have the budget. They don't have
to do it,
yeah,
or
exactly.
the time, or anything else. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Grab the plastic
it's
dinosaurs.
one shot it's one take per shot. They never went backwards.
And the movies are like 10, 15 minutes long when they're done and all that. So, but it's the charm of it that everyone decides, hey, this is a great version of Ghostbusters. Oh,
and I
like
think
your
of doing
version
that with my kids, that'd just be so much fun.
There you go. There you go. What do you think, Trevor? You've had a couple of seconds to think about this.
I actually thought about this when I was at the gala. I had a couple. One would be The Matrix. The Matrix would be awesome, sweeted.
Yeah,
when the whole lean back to dodge bullets, just like leaning back across the stool and like, oh,
yeah,
and then run a camera around the person.
Yeah.
That was one of the first ones that came to mind, was doing that one. Just because, I mean, so for people who don't know, the movies they did in Be Kind Rewind were 2001: A Space Odyssey, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, RoboCop, Rush Hour, Boys in the Hood, Driving Miss Daisy, and The Lion King. And they were all done really well. It was awesome. They did The Lion King in the post credits.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. I was trying to think.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't remember them doing Lion King. Right. Yes. The post credits.
Yeah, it was a
scene.
post-credits.
Yes.
And so thinking of that, I had other ideas of the Iron Giant, sweeted.
Yeah. Okay.
Just wrap up a guy in tinfoil and he's the Iron Giant, and just put the little like the little green army men so you can stomp on them, sort of stuff. And so after I got to those two on the drive home, a Bond film, Goldfinger maybe.
Yeah. Any of the earlier Bond films.
Oh
would
yeah,
be
yeah.
A lot more. Yeah.
Like
a Bond film.
Gold.
Exactly. So yeah, those were my three that I was thinking in my head. It was The Matrix, the Iron Giant, and Goldfinger. Those would be great.
Yeah. I particularly would like to do because a lot of the scenery could be shot locally, sort of thing. But I'd like to do Jaws. Because again, Jaws, don't see a lot of the shark to begin with. Some of the scenes were actually shot in a pool. You go out to a beach for a lot of the actual stuff, and if you pick the right time of the season, the 3 weeks in Ontario when you can shoot on a beach and not freeze to death, you can shoot all those stuff. So I mean,
Jaws.
Yeah, I think Jaws would be quite the easily attainable sort of Swede to it. And again, it's just the first thing off the top of my head is like Jaws would be a good one. But another one I'd like to do is oh shoot, what was it? It was going to be because Trevor said Matrix. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. What if? And now I can't remember what it is. Well, Gavin, do you have something?
It's late, folks. Give Troy a minute.
I was trying to think of something, and then I was like, well, Star Wars. No shit, they did Hardware Wars. That's pretty much it. I actually have a DVD copy of that somewhere still.
Oh yeah, well, everyone should. I mean,
I bought it, and my
that's a really big shelf you have over to the side there, Trevor. Everything seems to be on it,
which never seems to
it's
come
like the
into view.
TARDIS.
It's like the TARDIS shelf.
How much? If you were to sit there and start pulling movies out, how long would you be there for? Like half a day?
Considering the movie shelf it's 2 movies deep, and at a quick glance, there's got to be 40 movies across the front, so it'd be 80 movies there. And then there's more loose ones up above on the second shelf. There's probably another 30 loose movies up top. So yeah, and then there's books. Yeah.
It sounds like Gavin's stalling. Answer the question, Gavin.
Okay.
And again, Hardware Wars isn't really an answer because Hardware Wars is a parody of Star Wars. It's not an
Yes, but
not a sweeted version.
It's not a sweeted version.
It looks like it could be the sweeted version.
It's in the
Is
same
a vacuum
ballpark.
cleaner as R2D2. That's what I would substitute.
No, I understand where you're getting it from that point.
Since Gavin is stalling, something Troy said kind of triggered. If I was in Toronto and I wanted to make a sweeted movie, I'd make Resident Evil. Because I mean, you've got
you could use all the
you've got
locations
City Hall
and all
right
that.
there.
Yeah,
You could do the whole thing with Nemesis and Forcer wandering around. Just get a tall guy, dress him in black, and wrap him in like duct tape and stuff, or electrical tape. And
there you go. Yeah,
and it'd be like right on the same set.
Yeah.
Oh, Gavin has an idea.
I have an actual answer.
Okay.
Given the vast variety of filming locations in BC,
Simpsons did it.
Stargate?
No. Indiana Jones.
All right.
Oh, and Indiana Jones. Yeah. Which
I would
which
watch
would
you do that.
You could.
There's
a Raiders would probably be the easiest one to pull off, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, just like find like a chocolate head or something like that. Put a blowtorch to it. That'd be the scene from opening up the ark. Like running down after like with the boulder coming after you. You use there's so many natural like valleys that you could use.
Yeah.
Make a giant balloon or something like that. Paper mache it and then just roll it down.
Boom, boom,
you just leave the balloon with the word rock written on it.
Yeah.
That's
a pretty good one. Yeah, no, Raiders would be actually a really good one to Swede. And also you want to also do one with like the less the special effects, the easier to pull off. I mean, mind you, in the movie they do the flying car sequence from Men in Black. So they have this long paper tube that's painted black that they have dinky cars like glued to. So they start rolling it and they hold a stick with the other car flying over top of them. So it's a really cool close-up of this one car flying over these other cars and all that. It's really, really quite well done. But anyways, so yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think we got that one pretty well straightened away. Got a few.
You didn't think about your last one, Troy?
It's not coming to me. It's not coming to me. It's definitely not coming to me, and I don't think I'm going to get it because it's now almost 2:00 in the morning here on our Sunday morning. So on that note, I'm going to call it an end to this particular episode. I think we all had some fun. I'm glad that everyone was able to join us here. And you know what? You should join us here each week, my friends. You're sure to get a smile from 7 stranded castaways here in Gilligan's Island.
Short money, Bunny.
So we're just gonna say thanks for everyone for joining us. Hopefully come back next week. We got some more stuff lined up. We got a couple of big movies coming out in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that particular thing. And I guess on that note, we're just gonna say on the count of 3 a collective goodbye. And 1, 2, 3. Collective goodbye.
You have just been listening to Geeking Off the Page with your hosts, Mike Kitchen, Gavin Burbage, Trevor Brown, and Troy Bowman. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Also, if you could leave us a rating and comment, that would assist in allowing others to find this podcast more easily. You can follow the podcast on the following social platforms. Instagram and Twitter, search for @PlanetGeekPod, all one word. On Facebook, search for Planet Geek Productions. Or you can send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Buy the guys a coffee by going to Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/PlanetGeekPod. And know that any and all donations will go towards improving all current and future Planet Geek Productions programs. Thank you for listening.
And I'll take the rapist for 1,000, Alex.
We can't end on that. We can't end on that.
Good, we didn't.
Anal bum.
Your mother,
production is a beautiful thing.
On the road to recovery and stuff like that.
Are you
that's
so
cool.
wet?
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was really cool.
Oh no!
I
Gavin's
wish you were
pussy is
still
wet.
doing outtakes.
Gavin's pussy is wet. That's hilarious.
Why the hell is the link so damp?
That's pee.
Yeah. Doesn't taste like it.
Smells like pee. Tastes like pee. Probably not pee.
Oh, you gotta bring back the outtakes, Troy.
Yeah, no, I'll
Delicious.
well, I mean,
apple
long
juice.
episodes, I don't want to put them in, but I'll release the. I don't know if we can release that one, but